just another game of the mind. And big scriptures and talking about it and making yourself look superior to others and all those things don't have any value unless you actually can bring it into your daily life. So one of the most common symptoms, and I say symptoms because we all are diseased. We all have a disease of called materialism. We all believe in matter. We are matter, that we think we are matter, and all the results of this material world are many. And one of the most common is anxiety. People have a lot of anxiety, and who doesn't nowadays? One of my patients comes, young girl, like probably in mid low 30s, and she says, "Oh, I have this and I have that," and who doesn't have stress, And I said, "No, I don't have stress." She suddenly wakes up and says, "What's wrong with you?" So not to have a stress is abnormal nowadays, and everybody has a stress. And why do we have stress? And why do we have anxiety? So if you really analyze what has happened from the stage of the animals that used to exist, the evolution has really brought us a little further up, but we still are animals. Physically, we are animals. We have five senses. We perceive the world. We connect with the outside world, the physical. And the only thing that has happened is the emotions has evolved a little more, even though animals also have emotions, but not as developed as ours. So, and the mind is a little more powerful. But what is mind? Mind is basically perceiving all the senses, all the world which is perceived by your sense organs. The mind gets filled with it. So if you really compare the mind of the humans versus the mind of the animals, is not much different than what they are doing. They are basically utilizing their mind to get the food, procreation, and just go on with the cycle of life. We also basically do the same thing. We try to connect with the world and connect with other people, make living, and pass on. So I would not really say that there has been any major improvement in the state of our mind. And the reason being is that we have never looked beyond the mind. So mind still has remained material, and the matter fills into our mind. So the mind means thoughts. All our thoughts are material. So you can say, in a way, the mind is material. And what is the state that you're gonna achieve being in the material world? In the material world, everything is finite. No matter how much you want to try, you cannot be beyond 5'2", 5'3", 5'4", 5'5". Whatever is your height achieved at certain point, you are limited. Your shape is limited. The color of your skin is limited. How much speed at which you can run is limited. What is the fastest speed in the world? Maybe 13 miles an hour. World record, marathon, 2 hours, 9 minutes, things about that. So we have a physical limitations. And in that limitations, we compare ourselves with the others. The tall competes with the short, short competes with the even shorter. And all the actions are basically playing in the environment of matter. And matter is three-dimensional. And the only thing additional that we have been able to perceive little better than the animals is the fourth dimension of the time. So the mind keeps track of the time, that yes, it's such and such time. So we have more sophisticated devices to track the time. But they are all extension of the mind itself. But you can say that time is nothing but the motions of the material things. What is time for us? The rotation of the earth around the sun. If you step out of the solar system, where is time? How do you track the time if you have no watches? Then you just see the earth and the sun rotating around each other. That's the end of it. So you have no way to track the time. So because we are all synchronized, because we are living on the earth, we are rotating at the same time all the time. our time is more or less the same. And synchronization with watches and iPhones and iPads and all that has made it pretty much universal. So we are locked. But again, if the mind was not there, we could not track. So the only thing we can say that mind has evolved little more to track the dimension of the time. So for us, the difference between us and the animals is the fourth dimension. We can keep track of the events, and that should be supposedly evolutionary a better thing to have. But has it been better? Because of the capacity to track the time, we have created the past and we have created the future. Every scene that happens, it leaves an impression on our hard drive called the mind. So each frame has its place in the mind. As soon as that frame moves, the time changes, a new frame comes in, and the new frame comes in, and the new frame comes in. We extrapolate from the frame that we had 5 minutes ago or 15 minutes ago, and we compare, and then we make a judgment that yes, probably about 5 minutes has elapsed between that frame and this frame, or it could be 5 months, or it could be 5 years. And all these memories basically stay with us. So mind is a device projected outside to keep track of the events. But where are these events happening? In the three-dimensional material world. So mind, it creates the time. So the time is also what? Is built into the material world with the rotation of the movement of the objects. So time and the three dimension, adding all that, being kept track by the mind, is basically that's all we have done. So we have, yes, we have evolved a little bit, but I don't know whether that has created, we don't know yet how to handle these events of called the past and the future. So all the events that happen in the past, the mind is running back and forth. So in that, every single decisions that we make are based on what we did in the past and what we want to do in the future. The only problem is what mind does not recognize, the motion of the world is not in its control. All it is a tracking device. It keeps track of it. But when was the last time the security guard became the CEO of the company? The CEO runs the company, but the security guard just makes the rotations, what time the company opens up and what time it closes, and he thinks that he owns the company. Running a company is another story. The time factor, the motions, the finite, the three-dimensional world, and the fourth dimension of the time is all operated by something else that you and I, we don't know. There is some higher power operating all these things, and yet mind wants to call the shots. Mind is all it does, it keeps the track of the time, and it thinks that it can do anything it wants. So we want to go beyond our capacity and try to manipulate the past, manipulate the future, and all this running around creates this sense of anxiety, because mind wants to like things, dislike things, as if it owns the world and it's gonna get only the things it likes and hate the things that it dislikes. So mind is going beyond its capacity. And that's where the anxiety starts, because anxiety is about what? What is gonna happen? The uncertainty of the future events is the cause of the anxiety. So if you really think about it, every single emotions of the mind are going to be built into what? 4 dimension. Greed. I want more. What do you want? One of the things that 4 dimension can offer. I'm going to wait 5 minutes, 5 hours, 5 days, 5 years, but I want such and such thing. So my mind is set on what I want in the future. So hatred, same thing. I don't like you. I don't like this. I don't like these people. I don't like because the way they look, the way they talk. But if you really look into that, everything that you hate is also built into the 4 dimension. So all our emotions, not just the anxiety, our anger, our hatred, our desires, our whatever you can think of, literally, Whatever you can think of is in the fourth dimension. Why? Because thoughts means mind. So mind is a four-dimensional structure, and the problem with the mind has become because of the dizzying spell of the developing world, the way it's going, and more objects of pleasures and more attractions keep coming. Cannot keep track of all these things because it always wants something else. So the anxiety is created. So the topic is how to deal with anxiety. My question is not how to remove anxiety, because there is a subtle difference. As soon as you say how you want to remove the anxiety, what are you going to do? All you know is the mind, and all you know is the time and the three-dimensional world out there. So this is all you know so far. So what are you going to do if somebody says how to remove the anxiety? Whoever has never gone beyond the mind, if you ask them, and thinking that everybody has gone beyond the mind level into the consciousness, what are you going to do? You're going to ask your friend, you're going to ask your neighbor, and they all are locked in the four-dimensional world. What are they going to do? Oh, when I have anxiety, you know what? I start chanting. I go to the temple. I keep myself busy. I read something else. I go and just relax. I go on vacation. I try to forget about all these things. Your vacations are also taken in four dimensions. You're replacing the scene that you don't like with the scene that you like. What do you do in mantra and japs and all these things? All you want to is go to the temple, sit down and just Ram, 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 Ram. And you're trying to forget what is in your mind. And somebody says, oh, I put this music at night. What does the music do? It blocks your thought. Does it get rid of it? No. Because all these solutions are coming from where? From the four-dimensional world. So you really don't need any well-meaning friend who hasn't really gone beyond and actually known how to remove the anxiety. You don't need them, because all they're going to come up with a solution, how they do it. But by doing a solution, what are you going to do? Use your mind. When was the last time mind is going to fix itself? Because we are not talking about just the anxiety. Every single emotions, the four kasais, Mahavir says, Mad, Moh, Krodh, Maya. Everything is built into four-dimensional world. So it's not just we talking about just the removing the anxiety, but I'm talking about going beyond the four dimension. And then only you have a chance that you can deal with the anxiety. I didn't say remove the anxiety. Removing sounds like a doership, because removing anxiety means you do this, do this, do this, do this, and your anxiety will be gone. Really? No. If I am a surgeon, I got an appendix attack. That's my favorite example. I can't operate on myself to fix myself. I need an external help. So the question is, how do you find someone who can remove your anxiety? That what say. All they can do is give you the solution to remove the anxiety, means is more or less hiding the anxiety. As soon as the guy is gone, as soon as your jap and mantras are gone, as soon as your visits to the temple is gone, you're back to square A. So we really are not learning to come out of the four-dimensional life. So the solution is to open up the fifth dimension. And that's where the meditation comes in. By hands down, that is really the only method. Now, whichever way you reach beyond the mind, it's up to you. Mind includes what? It's your ego. Ego means it's not the egoism that I am superior to you. I'm talking about ego means your identification. Where are your identification? I am such and such. I am related to such and such. I own such and such car. I own such and such house. This is my address. This is my social security number. Everything is running around in the four-dimensional world is your ego. And it's always in relation with the other four-dimensional structures. I was here at such and such time. Everything is stamped with the central part being your ego. ego is a collection of all your identifications with the four-dimensional world. There was a Buddhist monk called Nagarjuna who went to the Chinese emperor because they wanted to spread Buddhism and the message of Buddha. He went to China. So Nagarjuna had a big name, and he was invited. Sorry, Bodhisattva. Bodhisattva was the one who actually spread Buddhism in China. So Bodhisattva was kept in a guest quarters, and he says, just wait there, and tomorrow morning a chariot will come to pick you up. And so Bodhisattva says, yeah, no problem, but there is nobody like Bodhisattva. So, all Buddhist monks are kind of weird. So the Emperor Wu was his name. He says, okay, whatever, I don't understand what he's saying. So next day, the time, 8 o'clock, the guy goes, takes his chariot to pick up Bodhisattva from his guest quarters. So Bodhisattva says, Bodhisattva, are you ready to come? He says, I'm coming, but there is nobody like Bodhisattva. He says, what are you talking about? I don't understand. He says, don't worry about it. So they pick up Bodhisattva, and he comes here, and the king comes out of his palace, and really he had heard so many things about Bodhisattva. He says, welcome, welcome to my palace, Bodhisattva. He says, I've been telling you, there is nobody like Bodhisattva. He says, this is a really big riddle. You explain to me. Forget about going to the palace. What are you saying by saying that you are not Bodhisattva? Everybody knows you are Bodhisattva. He says, well, the easiest way for me to explain is to step over here with me. He says, there is a chariot. I want you to do a few things. He said, get rid of the horses. Okay, the horses were removed. So what do you have now? He said, we have a chariot without horses, but chariot is still there. Okay, no problem. Why don't you remove the kill? Remove the kill. So what happens? The wheels came off. So now what happened? So this is a chariot without the hills, without the kill and without the nails. He says, I want you to remove every single nails that makes the rest of the structure. So all the nails were taken out, all the wooden pieces were taken out. He says, where is the chariot? There is no chariot. The whole chariot was there because of the compilation of all the small objects. Our ego is nothing but a chariot made out of small, small, small identifications, which we think is big, but they are not big compared to the vast universe, the cosmos, the universe. In fact, there was a news I posted in our Before Yoga thing. They found out the evidence of previous universe. Believe it or not, there are some remnants of the previous universe. Again, it's a postulate. There is no way to prove, or they might be able to prove down the road. But imagine a destroyed universe, still remnants existing in the present universe. Goes back to our scriptures. This is creation and dissolution is a way of life. And we hardly had known about one universe. Now we're talking about series of universe. And there is another theory called brain theory, not B-R-A-I-N, B-R-A-N-E. It's based on membranes. They think, and again, it hasn't been disputed yet, mathematically it is a correct model. They say there is a huge membrane, which is a straight and in certain dimension flat, and there are two membranes are continuously rotating. And time to time, these membranes come in contact with each other. Wherever they comment, and it's a huge membrane, of unimaginable dimensions. And whenever they come in contact with each other, the sparks happen. That spark is one universe. You're talking about billions and billions of universes. Imagine Krishna says, I am the owner of crores of universes. What are we? And yet we walk around with that I am the chariot.
Social security number. We are all social security.
Right. So every single component of what we are makes our ego. And we're riding so high. That's why our mind is so important. Because mind does what? It wants to protect whatever it thinks it is. So mind thinks it is the ego. Now everybody has their own ways of becoming the ego. Whether I make you lose in the arguments. Maybe I can make you smaller in the knowledge, or maybe I may prove myself taller than you. Whatever method you can, you will choose to make yourself look bigger and make your ego bigger. Or the other way around, ego can suffer too by feeling itself inferior. Lenin, the biggest god of communism, had short legs. He did not like it. He always felt inferior about it. Imagine the one who created the whole Russia. But whenever he would sit, his feet would not touch the ground. He made all the attempts to hide it so that nobody notices it. And he always, till he died, he felt, despite my achievements, I feel inferior because my feet does not touch the ground. Imagine. So, so flimsiness of the ego cannot be removed by staying in the ego. That's why doership has no value. No matter which religion you pick, which continent you go to, whatever end of the world you go to, whatever method is suggested, even by the achieved gurus, right? All they can deliver the message would be in the fourth dimension. How did Buddha talk to you? In the medium of air. He talked and you listened. And Buddha said, for 500 years, they listened to him. Do not write down anything. You put it in your daily life. And that's how you pass the message of Buddha. Not by talking even. I talk because I don't have a choice. Because the moment I talk, it becomes the second truth. First truth cannot be spoken about. It becomes the second truth. Because now it is, and it has entered into the dimension of the four, into the world of four dimension. So it became inferior. It used to be beyond the fourth dimension, in its pristine glory. But the moment it enters into the fourth dimension, it becomes useless. But I don't have a choice. And yet, he did have disciples. He could communicate in the silence. They say Buddha still shows up every year, once a year, in Himalayas, in front of 500 monks, and they communicate at the silence level. There are ways of communicating. And there is a secret place, and this place is not a physical place, obviously. It is a beyond the material, and only 500 monks are allowed. Only if the one monk passes away, its place is replaced by whoever is eligible and has elevated himself. It's beyond our imagination, beyond our ideas, but all I can say that there is a medium that exists beyond the fourth dimension. So the reason I can say that even science is supporting, how were those four dimensions created? They were created as soon as the universe was born. As soon as the energy turned into subatomic particles, the gas, and the gas turned into the particles and the subatomic particles and the quantum theories, and all these things finally merged and created the atoms and then molecules and then matter, and everything was created. As soon as the universe was created, the matter was created, and the matter against another matter created the time. So the time and what is space is the emptiness between the two material objects. Space was created. What we call empty requires the support of the other matter to call itself an emptiness. Shunya is different than the space. Shunya is beyond imagination. But space is what we see, the emptiness. That requires the matter to be created. And matter creates the time, because time requires the matter. So everything is interdependent. The whole phenomenon of four dimension is locking us up. It's so much that our mind tries to escape from it. It tries to find the ways of escaping from this, and that's why the mind keeps on going back and forth for something better. But it can only ask for what it knows, right? If you go to a temple, what do you ask for? Oh, make me taller, make me more beautiful, give me a job, whatever. It depends upon what stage of life you are, right? If you are a kid, make me a doctor, make me pharmacist, make me this, give me entrance into this exam. Our desires are also in 4 dimensions. We never escape, right? So there was a kid who was in a fair, in so many people, and it just so happened that the kid got drifted away from his parents. So now he's looking for his parents. He's getting very worried because he's like 5, 6 year old. And parents had always told him, if any difficulty happens, you pray to God, right? So he sits down, folds his hands, and then opens up and he says, God, please find me my parents. 4-dimensional demand, right? Find me my parents. Please, I'm really lost. I don't know what's going to happen. It's getting dark. I'm going to get lost. I don't know how. I don't know how to reach home. Please reunite me with my parents. It just so happened that a flock of birds happened to pass by. One of the bird chirped in his hand. So now the imagination of God is also 4-dimensional. So the kid says, please God, don't do this to me. I'm really in trouble. I don't want any shit from you. Take me home. So our communications are also happening. Our gods are also 4-dimensional. So it shows that we never leave the 4-dimensional world. Hands down, meditation is the only way. Because as you go deeper and deeper, as you walk away from your mind, you're not walking away from any one particular emotions or any one particular event, just all across the board. Thoughts means the mind. Mind means the thoughts. We have a very powerful tool in our hand. If utilized properly and not misused or abused or neglected, you can rise higher. The way to go higher is the wisdom. The wisdom to understand what I'm saying itself requires wisdom. And I can't make any simpler than this. But wisdom is only a connecting tool that takes you beyond the mind. All it says that something makes sense. All these things make sense, then your wisdom is developing. And along with wisdom, you need courage. Because you have lived like this forever and ever and ever. The reason you are here in 4-dimensional world, because you have never thought that something beyond the 4-dimensional world is possible. So when the consciousness, Atma, gets born, the reason it has to be born, because our previous lives' demands were also what? 4-dimensional. So what is God is going to do? He says, okay, go back where what you wanted. He says, Mil karvat mochi na mochi. You go to Kashi and kill myself, but I want to be this. I want to be this. We don't want to come out of it. That is the problem, because we never got the right path. For the first time, we have gotten, it's no coincidence that we are all together. It's no coincidence. Mahavir Swami says, 3 things are the rarest. Manushyatva, being a human being, is rare. Mumukshatva, intense desire to escape from this repetitiveness. You have to have some wisdom, even if you don't hear the words of Buddha or Mahavir or Jesus or Krishna. But just something, that something is not right. Is there something beyond this repetitive life? That's called mumukshatva. That spark is rare. It does not exist in everybody. Most of the people are content with whatever they made in the 4-dimensional. If 1 million was not enough, 10 million. 10 million was 10 billion. But they never come out of it. If you say, okay, I don't like this girl, okay, I'm tired of this one girlfriend, I'm going to look for. They never say that what can I do besides? What is it that keeps me drawing towards this 4-dimensional world? You never ask yourself. So mumukshatva, the intense desire to be free, is rare. And rarest of all is Dharma Labh. The Dharma Labh is the true Dharma which is flowing from way beyond, which is pure, which is pristine, which is beyond the four dimension, without any desire of any four-dimensional world, and does not give you any shit. That's it. Pure, pristine divinity is Dharma. That has been practiced by the enlightened souls and is coming to you. But even if it comes to you without these two important things, Manushyatva and Mumukshatva, you're still gonna miss out. So it is very critical. Is Triveni, Ganga, Jamna and Saraswati. Saraswati, you don't see it. Saraswati remains hidden. You have to explore. Ganga, Jamna is very obvious, but the Saraswati is well hidden. Unless you look for it, you cannot find the trace. But once you find it, there is no stopping. So three things are extremely rare, and whenever you find this source, don't miss it. Grab it and realize that four-dimensional world is not gonna take you anywhere. Guaranteed. Days after days, life after life, you're gonna lose it. You're gonna keep going in these circles. It will never come out of it. Because it's just not possible. Because four-dimensional world is a creation of something. Something lot higher, lot bigger. We cannot even talk about it because talking happens in four dimension. So it's a very subtle way that we need to progress. And meditation is the way. So much for today.
Thank you. Jai Gurudev. Dharma Labh, right?